welcome again to another episode of Stan, Steve, and Spider-Man. I'm Alfie.
And I'm your boy Meezy.
And today, what exactly are we going to be discussing?
We're going to be discussing the amazing issue of The Amazing Spider-Man 3. Although, I don't think it's all that amazing. I think it's just pretty good.
Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Yeah, I don't know why I said 3. I meant 2.
Because we've done 3 issues, like, the number...
Yeah. Honestly, I just always forget that Amazing Fantasy is where it starts. I always feel like... In my head, like, Amazing Fantasy is Amazing Spider-Man 1, and then, and so forth.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm kind of like, for any listeners, it's just something I've thought about, is like, fuck, man, this is kind of, now because of Amazing Fantasy being our first episode, all our episodes are going to be one episode later in the issue, so if anyone's going back to, like, listen to specific things, it might get really confusing down the edge.
Oh, God. You're right.
Yeah, so that's something that I'm kind of like, we'll deal with it. It's not that big of a big deal, but like, god damn it, they should have just made Amazing. If it's cool that Amazing Fantasy 15 was like Spider-Man's like little entry into the world, but for the sakes of us, this podcast, it kind of fucks up the ordering.
Yeah, we should have called it episode 0.
But that's just edgy. And then there will be Amazing Spider-Man 0 and like Amazing Fantasy 16, 17, and 18, which we could possibly touch on.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Well, we could just talk. We just talk to like the Kingdom Hearts guys and get some really weird names. Oh well.
Amazing Spider-Man Exodus.
Recoded.
The Revengeance.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, speaking of revenging, this issue doesn't necessarily feature people getting back at anyone, but it does feature 2 stories of 2 kind of similar villains, at least appearance-wise, with, of course, the main center stage cover villain being the villainous Vulture. And before we get into the issue proper, as Matt kind of cliffhangered last episode, kind of get into this. How do you feel about the Vulture as a villain, seeing as this is our first exposure to like a major Spider-Man rogues gallery?
Bro, I think I will die on the hill that the Vulture is the most lame, like high listed supervillain ever. I just think his design, he's just an old man in a tight bird suit.
Yeah.
The fact that I can see his beer gut is not something I want from my supervillains.
Yeah, that's kind of a point. Steve Ditko doesn't exactly draw him very muscular. He's got kind of a heft to him.
He made Homeboy thick. And then it's just like, I mean, I don't know. I guess flying's cool, but flying's such a generic power that. I mean, I guess it's kind of cool that he flies and he's completely like silent. Like that's kind of cool and kind of terrifying if you do Vulture right. But I don't know, man. Anytime I ever read Vulture, watch anything of Vulture, play anything of Vulture, like I just dread when I get to him.
I don't know if I have the same exact like disdain that you're kind of describing, because I guess I'm just kind of used to him, but. I do agree, he never comes up in like my top 10 Spider-Man villains or something, and I'm normally like, I'm Mr. Alfie reaches for Spider-Man content and connections and goes way too super detail on like minor characters, so I normally do try and like find, oh no, this is really interesting Electro story or something, or this really interesting like Sandman thing and his like redemption arc, maybe he's actually got a really good character stuff. Like I like to go in depth with a lot of the minor Spider-Man villains and maybe go a bit like give them more credit than they deserve, but I never find myself making the effort with Vulture, which is actually something I kind of, because he's someone I don't care for, I do kind of like to make him work. There's stuff coming down the pipeline that people will see which might feature the Vulture, but just it makes me admire him in stuff like Spider-Man Homecoming, where obviously he's the major villain of that film, and they kind of completely redo his character and his outfit and everything, but they make the idea work in that. Specifically the name's really good. the Vulture is just like a
Yeah,
cool
like
idea because that has a lot of connotations with it.
yeah, the Vulture's a cool name, especially like the idea that they are birds of prey, but at the same time, they just kind of pick off and scab what is already dead.
Hmm.
So like, yeah, you're right. The Vulture has a cool name and like a really cool premise. I think from Spider-Man, I would like to see the Vulture 2, where it isn't the old man and like someone else who took the name.
Oh, well, that does happen. Uh,
Oh, it does.
yeah, we
That's
might get to that.
Oh, that sounds sick. I am excited.
I mean, we'll see. It's a bit down the road, but I think it's most famously like talk. It's in this run. It's in the Stan Lee Romita part, I think. Um, no, definitely, yeah, no, definitely is the Romita part. But like, I actually gonna kind of throw that because I think this sets a good precedent, which we'll start to see. And I think maybe again before we get into the issue itself, this is something I like to talk about. Um, this is setting the standard that Spider-Man will fight people much older than him.
Yeah,
Most
yeah,
superheroes
you're
fight
right.
people relative to their age. Even teenage superheroes tend to have like teenage supervillains. Like if you watch the Teen Titans cartoon, they have Deathstroke, Slade, but they mostly fight people like Jinx or like that kind of like other teenage supervillains or people in that ballpark, like young adults even, like Young
You're
Justice, things
right.
like. But Spider-Man never has like doesn't have a single teenage villain.
Yeah, you're especially Peter doesn't really have anyone his age until he's at least an adult that I can think of.
Yeah, like obviously some versions of Harry Osborn and Eddie Brock are made young. Well, Harry Osborn doesn't become a villain until they're both older anyway. But Eddie
Yeah.
Brock in Ultimate is more closer to his age, but he's still older than him even in that.
Yeah, so yeah, Eddie's a little bit older than him when I think about it. That's
And it kind
weird.
of makes sense because if you think about it, who does Peter's social circle so far in these two issues? Just Aunt May. He doesn't
Yeah.
hang around with
And,
his Flash Thompson's his biggest teenage adversary.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, say Flash Thompson's the only issue that could even kind of go his way when it comes to teenagers. That's I don't know. That's interesting. I'll say no superheroes really like that. The only other one I can think of is like I don't really ever see Shazam fighting other kids,
That's true. That's a good point, actually.
but but Shazam's different though because I feel like Shazam there's like a sense that like we're like they can like I feel like a lot of his villains can tell that Shazam's actually just a kid. They just don't say anything. With Spider-Man, I feel like they treat Spider-Man like a grown man, and they're willing to kill this kid. And I think that's what really makes Spider-Man villains messed up. Like they
Yeah.
are definitely willing to kill this 16-year-old.
And kind of what I like about his relationship with his Rose Gallery is I do kind of think most of them can tell that he's younger than them, but they don't exactly know by like how much. Like I don't think the Vulture knows he's fighting a 15-year-old. He might think he's fighting like a 20-year-old or something. Um, like he doesn't realize the dramatic stakes. But by the time they fought him long enough that they do, the difference between Spider-Man and Shazam I feel is like Billy kind of when he fights his villains, he treats them in a very Superman way, where he's not necessarily fighting to beat them, he's fighting to like stop them.
Yeah, you're right.
Spider-Man takes absolutely roasts all his villains and constantly does it, and then he beats them up and then sends them to jail. So I feel like more than nearly every sort of, even more than Batman, because Batman's villains kind of have like a love-hate relationship with him. I feel like Spider-Man's villains hate this fucking kid's guts more than any other. And this like the Vulture in this issue kind of goes with that. It's just they can't stand the thought of this like this kid beating them up and then laughing at them while he does it.
Yeah, yeah. I'll say, well, yeah. I feel like there's nothing worse than like getting your ass whooped, and then the guy proceeds to roast you as your ass is getting beat.
Yeah, it's something that I feel like Spider-Man particularly, it sets up a good precedent for when we get down the road to like people like Norman Osborn, who get so fixated on like that kind of like hate that they just can't, they just break because it's just they're so emotionally unstable. Like this sheer insult to them. Like Ultimate does it really well. One of Bendis' best thing in that is kind of detailing how these like these hardened gangsters literally just lose their shit at this like scrawny kid. It's something I really enjoy about kind of Spider-Man's relationship. Like even when he gets older, his villains get older with him, so it's the age gap still the same.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's really interesting. I really want to say I really haven't. I read like the first volume of Ultimate. I really need to go deeper because I enjoyed what I read. I just didn't buy anything afterwards.
I get ya. Maybe that's something after this, with retrospect, we'll do the first 38 issues of Ultimate and compare it.
That'd be kind of cool. That actually, yeah, so that'd actually be really an interesting comparison.
But anyway, dreams of the far future will remain dreams of the far future. In terms of this issue, first things first, what do you think of the cover?
Oh, I think this. It's funny. I just wrote this Vulture's design for like 2 minutes straight, but I think this cover is really cool. I think the Vulture looks cool on the cover with the with the aerial battle. I feel, I don't know. There's just like a. Let me pull it up so I can know what I'm talking about. Yeah, because I don't know. I think there's something really cool about this cover. I just don't know what. Oh god, I typed in Amazing Spider-Man 2 and the movie thing popped up.
Oh dear. But yeah, I definitely agree. I really like the perspective Ditko uses here. It's kind of like a
Yes
of Amazing Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy, where like we see Spider-Man swinging upwards. Not the Jack Kirby cover, but the Ditko one. We see Spider-Man swinging upwards, kind of confident. This is him where he's falling downwards in like an almost reverse of the angle, and he's looking terrified. And then the Vulture obviously being placed above him as like his new threat. I think it's really smart to have Spider-Man have an aerial villain. It kind of just plays to his capabilities, because here you have a guy who can navigate the air, but it's not without effort. Like everything Spider-Man does, it's physical. He's moving in like this really cool acrobatic way, and it's completely instinctual to him. But he still has to like. Superman doesn't have to move his arms when he flies too much. That you'll see Christopher Reeve kind of like, you'll see like sometimes he'll bank, like he'll move his arm to like turn a corner or something. But it's pretty like he normally just floats. Spider-Man always kind of has to do these grand pulling motions, and like in the Raimi trilogy and even in the Amazing Spider-Man movies that Matt unhelpfully unleashed on all of us by searching Google,
yeah.
There's a real great musculature when he's like moving, and it creates this kind of idea. But then you have a villain like the Vulture, whose whole gimmick is flight without any sort of need for effort, which kind of defeats why does he need wings at that point. It's a gimmick, you just kind of have to roll with it. But like it's just an interesting idea, and I can totally see why either Lee or Ditko kind of came up with the idea of, oh no, let's give the swinging guy someone who's like in the same space but completely at ease with it. It makes a great first kind of trial by fire for Spider-Man, which he hasn't really had yet.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, you're right. That is really, really cool. Interesting. Yeah, I'll say the gimmick alone, that is a pretty good obstacle for Spider-Man, especially early Spider-Man. I think what I really like about the cover is the fact that like what they did with the city, they made it really minimal, especially compared to like the last two covers, where like I feel like the cityscapes in the back look really detailed. So it just draws your eyes straight to Spider-Man freaking out, and I think that's a really powerful cover, especially for your second issue, to have the main hero look like he's about to die.
Yeah. One thing though, like a downside to this cover, which I feel the last one didn't have so much, even though it kind of had like the tease of the story, is I do feel like the little Tinkerer box gets in the way of the art. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like. I keep trying to look at the main image, but my eyes keep getting drawn to this stupid little 2-inch terrible Tinkerer teaser. I'm like, I don't know. I'm really glad. If you look at modern comic book covers, we really don't get all this like crap on the sides like we used to.
Yeah, it's
And
something
I think that's a really good trend that we created, that we don't have this anymore.
Yeah, we let the art speak for itself a little bit more.
Yeah, for real.
Which is, I think, going into like to the relationship between Lee and Ditko, I feel like this might be like early signs of what might cause the relationship to go a little astray. Is this text balloons filling up my artwork kind of idea that Ditko would often say. Just because he felt a lot of it wasn't necessary. And I will agree, like, these time period of comics, sometimes you could just leave some panels wordless and you get it. But again, that's less so an issue with Stanley and more so an issue with just like how comics were seen to be written at the time. It would be the same thing as trying to, like, in the 90s and expecting, when there was a lack of panels that described dialogue or like any kind of medical thing. So I feel like it's a minor thing in just a cover, but it's also kind of indicative of this is being held back a little bit by the time it's being made.
Yeah, you're right. I would definitely second that. It was interesting because I never knew that Lee had that Ditko had the issue with all the text bubbles, but looking back at the issue, I can definitely see why he would start having that. Because I feel like Stanley also has a big issue that I have whenever I try to write, and that's just called a lot of dialogue for no reason. And so, yeah, I can definitely see what how this definitely could like upset Ditko as an artist.
Mm-hmm. And it's something a lot of people, even to this day, even though we've toned down, it's still a bit of contention. I know most famously Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, for anyone who doesn't know, because this is mostly Marvel, they were like the big Batman artists, but big Batman collaborators, and they still do work together quite a lot on Batman, but they'll have a big famous Batman run, which was the start of the New 52. And I know when they first started off, they couldn't stand each other in like the first arc. And like they both like told each other's like management like, oh, we're gonna need to get a new artist or a new writer because I can't stand this guy. They're like brothers at this point now, but it's funny looking back at like that relationship. And it was just because Scott Snyder tended to have a bit of a Stan Lee thing where he wanted to write so much everywhere to get his point across, and then Capullo had the Ditko thing where it's like, you're covering my artwork, you're ruining the impact kind of thing.
No, I remember hearing about that, and I always thought that was funny. What I think is even funnier is I think their first arc is their strongest arc, so it's kind of interesting to see that, like, I think with these collaborators, sometimes I think their best work comes when they really hate each other because they're both trying to top each other, and they just both, and in the end they just both like end up putting 140%, so it's really, really good.
That's true. But at the moment, someone who's putting in mostly all of his effort is the Vulture. How is our famous villain introduced? By stealing a briefcase. The Vulture! The duel to the death!
I didn't believe he existed.
He's a man, but he's flying without the assist of any kind of contraption. Incredible! My God! Outstanding! Like, these are like, there's like a panel of like these very shocked bystanders, and they just give like a moment to give Vulture his own. Look up in the sky. It's a bird. No, it's a plane. Like they get that kind of thing.
Oh wait, it actually is a bird.
Yeah. Oh wait, fuck! They were right the second time. But no, I kind of think it's kind of hilarious that the first dastardly deed of the Vulture is to steal the goddamn like briefcase. Apparently has
with bonds.
Yeah, but it's so like, really? That was your master plan for the first heist? The guy's just walking down the street.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's ridiculous.
But I mean, we take it. It's charming. You kind of have to take it as. I mean, if you are flying and you want to rob someone, I guess being a glorified purse snatcher makes sense because they're not exactly going to give chase after you. So I get it, but it's just so lackluster. But we get a more daring heist as we go on. So
Yes.
look, you carry on.
Oh, sorry. Carry on. No. I was just gonna say low crime, low time, but it's really not that important.
Oh, well, there you go. We're too polite and too ineffectual to make this podcast work. Yeah, so this is why we're both going to put 140% because we're going to try and interrupt each other as much as possible.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. Damn it, I didn't say fast enough.
I'm gonna let you finish, but
I will let you finish. But J. Jonah Jameson, in the famous and always reliable Now magazine, as featured in the Sam Raimi movies, Now magazine is always what we think of when we see of J. Jonah Jameson as the publisher of. Wait, no, what?
yeah,
Matt,
yeah.
Now magazine? Where did this fucking go?
Yeah, so I did not recall hearing about any Now magazine, which is weird because I have read like the first like 15 to 20 issues of the Lee Ditko stuff, but like I was still shocked to see Now magazine and the fact that he owns his own publishing company and the fact that he just named it after himself. He didn't even give it like he didn't even name it Jameson Publishing or anything. He had to put all three J's up in that.
That's such like an awesome move. That's just a JJ move. Like, of course,
That's a power move.
That is a power move. Maybe that's why we never see it again. Is he just kind of got embarrassed by it and just kind of let it fall to the wayside.
Yeah, I'll say I feel like his wife or someone has called him out, like saying, like, "Are you really going to be that ignorant?"
Yeah. So basically, this is where we start the famous shtick that will be Spider-Man's profession, despite his scientific leanings, where J. Jonah Jameson utters the famous words, "Now get me pictures of the Vulture!"
I'll pay a fortune for these things.
He wants pictures of Spider-Man, but no one can get him pictures of Spider-Man in lurid positions, so he's going to settle for geriatric old man in green spandex.
But yeah, I'll say my favorite thing about when we see Jameson in this is you hear him. He's like, "All right, we need Vulture stuff ASAP. We gotta sell the magazine, but don't forget about Spider-Man. I still need Spider-Man stuff."
Yeah, like he's always like, that guy's up. Trust me, if we get some pictures of him, he's gonna be a real menace. So like Jameson kind of like is on the hunt for Spider-Man photos. And then Flash Thompson, when we cut to school, is kind of like, "Oh yeah, man, if we could get pictures of the Vulture, I bet someone could make a lot of money." And Peter Parker, as we finished off in the last issue, is obviously having money issues with like Aunt May. He's like, "Oh, this could be. I can easily get pictures of this guy. Probably." He's not even thinking I could stop him. He's thinking I can make some money off this. Which again, we're still not in patrolling superhero mode yet. We're in I need to support my aunt, which is completely understandable.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually really think it was interesting because have we seen Flash Thompson before this?
Yes,
I don't.
He's in Amazing Fantasy 15 and #1, but he doesn't get this much of an interaction with Peter. He normally just insults him while they're looking away.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was interesting that we actually got more like of the Flash v Peter situation because I've always found their relationship to be interesting, especially by like once they start getting more developed.
Yes, in hindsight, when they're like best friends, and most recently, spoilers for Amazing Spider-Man, but Flash Thompson is currently dead in the comics, and like he was one of Peter's best friends. So seeing these early moments, especially coming off of that, is kind of heartfelt and kind of like it's something I feel like it's a relationship that hasn't been done right outside of the comics.
Yeah, definitely. But at the same time, I kind of get why it hasn't been done right because in the Raimi movies, I don't feel like there's any room for Flash Thompson to be a bigger thing than Joe Manganiello punching him, and then we never see him again until Spider-Man 3's funeral scene.
Yeah.
And then I don't even remember how he was an Amazing Spider-Man, but no one cares about those anyways. And then and I think he's so boring in the Homecoming movies because he's just I don't know. I just feel like we're just like, let's just call him Penis Parker and then get it done. I don't feel like there's any sort of depth to Flash, but then again, there's no depth to him right now either.
Yeah, he's kind of the point is he starts up with no depth, and then like through Spider-Man's example, he kind of matures himself, which is a kind of like a beautiful thing, but it has to take place slowly, and you can't really have that in like movies because there's just not enough time.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so
But
Peter gets the idea to take photos from Flash, and there's a really nice moment where which I honestly had forgotten about until I reread this. The camera Peter uses is Uncle Ben's.
yeah, yes, I totally forgot that too. And yeah, I thought that was really cool. And I also like how they had that little picture of Uncle Ben in that panel.
Yes.
Just because like, you know, we've heard him talked about a few times, but we really haven't seen him since Amazing Fantasy. I'll say I don't recall seeing his face in the last. I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember seeing it in Amazing Spider-Man 1.
No, he's not at all.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's a cool reminder.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
Oh no, nothing. But I don't know. I just
see. I told you tried to interrupt me on purpose. This is the fall of our relationship.
Yeah, I know. I go and then I realize, wow, Alfie has something really important to say here. So then I want to stop. So I'm going to stop, and you're going to say something important now.
All right, this is what I'm going to say. Important. Peter dresses up as Spider-Man and then goes looking for Vulture. That is like important thematic depth.
Yeah, well, it was important because
sorry, Matt. Go on, Matt. Sorry. I'll stop.
People can start making a drinking game out of this, where every time they interrupt each other, you take a shot. But no, I think the funniest panel in maybe all of comics is right underneath where he gets dressed up, where it's the Vulture talking about how he's gonna steal these gems, and he just has the goofiest looking face you've ever seen. I think this panel alone is the reason why I won't ever take him serious as a character.
This is why they had to give him like a huge helmet in Homecoming, so you didn't see that fit expression. Although I think Keaton could have pulled this off.
I low-key wish they made Vulture like classic Vulture just to see Keaton in a weird spandex suit.
Yeah, if he did Batman, I don't see why he couldn't do this.
Yeah, exactly. That'd been awesome. But yeah, no. Pretty much, we just get a lot of talk of Vulture just talking about how he's gonna steal some gems, which I mean, I guess good for him. I think it's kind of weird that you go from a briefcase to a huge gem exchange in the heart of New York City. It's kind of like crawling to sprinting over a pit of fire when you really think about it.
Yeah, he's like, that was his trial run, and he's like, well, now I'm able to take down the entire New York police force.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate the hustle and, you know, truly believing in yourself and all that, but, like, I don't know. I think you should keep working yourself up the food chain a bit more before you try to steal millions and millions in gems.
Well, I mean, as we find out later, he kind of was right.
Yeah.
But so, Vulture goes across, and the police kind of get like warned by like a nice little note that he gives them of like, "I'm gonna steal gems, bitches." And I really want someone to edit the panel of where the Vulture like sends him a message and just like make it like one of those like really cringy tweets with loads of emojis.
That'd be awesome. He just sends them a piece of paper. It has 100 emoji, and that's it. And there's like, dear God.
And it's just like the Vulture.
The Vulture. I'll say he has really nice handwriting.
So Vulture kind of swoops across, flying across the city. Spider-Man runs into him, and then because this is kind of a thing that's interesting, but like, so Spider-Man is trying to like get a photo of him. So he's not really paying too much attention. and the Vulture uses this opportunity to like spot Spider-Man and then do like a barrel roll from Star Fox, and like straight up kick Spider-Man in the back of the head, knock him out for a little bit. He places him in a water tower, but we see this throughout this issue, and I don't remember seeing a lot of Vulture stories kind of follow this up, but Vulture's really fast in this.
Yeah, you're right. I'll say he just took Spider-Man out with the old 1-2.
Uh-huh. It's one of those things where, like, flight is his gimmick, but the thing that really helps him in is his speed, which I think makes sense with when we learn that how his suit works is it's repelling a magnetic field. So he's like kind of how Magneto flies. He's repelling himself from the Earth, from like the Earth's gravitational field. Comic book science, but for an explanation, I think it works fine. It's better than if it was actually him having to flap his wings to fly. But like
I disagree. You see, do you know how funny if he had to flap his wings?
Fair enough.
Vulture would be my favorite supervillain of all time if he had to flap wings.
If he got to flap those. So like he's basically repelling and pulling himself. So the fact that he can make that go faster makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of what lets him get the jump on Spider-Man here. But it's something I feel like it's nowhere to be seen in any other adaptation of the Vulture, which is interesting.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So you really don't see Vulture feel like. Well, maybe the thing is that because we've seen experienced Spider-Man be the Vulture every other time. So like, he only feels fast right now because Peter just isn't fast yet.
That's true.
Because I feel like there's any villain that's like in Spider-Man's rogue gallery where I feel like if you beat him once, you'll be able to figure out how to beat him again every other time. It'd probably be the Vulture.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happens. And it's like when we get to like people like the Sandman, it's kind of like you have to keep thinking of new ways because he's so like ridiculously powerful. But like the Vulture's kind of just got one gimmick and can only apply it in one way. So once you figure out how to like get past that, obviously we see like stuff where like he'll upgrade his tech to repel it, like different devices. But no, you are right. It's just he's just something that Peter has to adapt to yet because he's never had a fight with. He's fought the Fantastic Four, but their abilities are all kind of like well known and like probably on the TV, so he kind of knew what to expect. I think he just caught off guard here, and that speaks a lot to when he's like placed in this water tower.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I guarantee you, Peter didn't think that Vulture would ever spot him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I think the panel of him dropping him into the water towers also is really funny.
Yeah, it's like this really small, like squiggly drawing of like him holding up Spider-Man up by his legs and just like dropping in a little hatch.
yeah. It's just I don't know. I just like how I feel like I don't think it's bad work. I just feel like the way Ditko does body art sometimes is just really really weird looking, and I like it.
Yeah, it's because it's like it's very much kind of got this uncanny valley thing because he draws people in these really like outlandish costumes, but he always draws their physiques really realistic. So it looks as like ridiculous as seeing an actual old man dressed in a Vulture cosplay, like putting the Spider-Man guy in like a water tower. It would look funny even if you know that guy's gonna die.
Exactly. I think that's why it's funny because like if Vulture didn't look like Vulture, I don't think it'd be funny.
Yeah.
But then we just get a bunch of Spider-Man trying to figure out how to get out of this, which I'll let you explain this better than me.
I mean, there's not much to explain. He just kind of figures out, oh, hey, I can jump real high. He manages to do so, and it's a nice little panel sequence. We talked on this before on the podcast, but Ditko's really the master of action to action to action to action to action to action, and he's really good at portraying movement in a panel grid. And so you get like cute scenes throughout all of this of just like Peter managing to do an action, and you see every step, and it flows really well, and especially when it like power. I think it's a good way of explaining like Spider-Man goes down, you see him crouching, and then you see him leap, It's not just you see him down and then leap. It's like a setup, and I think it's really well done. But it's just it's something that's only there so Peter can get away from the Vulture and kind of like figure out how to take him down. And I'm curious how you feel about this. The whole Spider-Man's abilities aren't what beat the Vulture. It's Peter Parker putting his brain to use.
I'll say I actually, while I was reading this, I noticed that I really like how he did it because, again, I think, you know, especially with founding issues of a superhero, it's really important to show off like personality traits and reason why they're enjoyable to read outside of their powers. So I think it was good to see that, like, you know, because Spider-Man figures out how to beat Vulture pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he literally just sits down and be like, all right, I need to let me make some upgrades right quick, and then get this stuff down. But I think what's really important though is when he was figuring out. Oh wait, no, never mind. That's later an issue. We'll discuss that later. But yeah, I do think it's cool though, you know, to see, like, you know, this is where he starts adding, you know, more web fluids, because this is where it's gonna start, where, you know, I'm out of web fluids. This is gonna become really great.
Yeah, and we can see the web cartridge bout here, which I really like, and it's something I wish was used more. Like the whole idea of like Spider-Man's outfit is like a shirt; it's not a onesie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, I didn't think about it like that. Yeah, in my head it's always kind of a onesie, but like here it's a straight shirt, which I think is kind of cool.
As someone who's made Spider-Man costumes, I know for a fact that I always have to make it a onesie, just because if it's a shirt, it's really hard to make it stretch properly, and it looks kind of off. Obviously, when it's drawn, you can make it look like one piece, and then when you need it to be separated, you can make it look two pieces. But because of the way like spandex stretches, it's really hard to get that like perfect, like diagonal, like straight thing that Spider-Man has. Especially if you want to have like a belt underneath it. I think maybe one day I'd like to try it, just so I can get like 100% accurate Spider-Man costume, even if it doesn't look totally flush, just for like the novelty. But no, I like in the comics like this idea of like Peter Parker, because it makes more sense of how he'd hide it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel like if it actually was this type of shirt material thing that, you know, you were discussing, it would definitely be easier to hide than a whole spandex suit. Yeah, that is interesting. I don't know. I'm just kind of mind blown, because I didn't even think about the fact that, yeah, they made it like a T-shirt in this, or like not like a T-shirt texture wise, but T-shirt like you can just pull it up and take it off anytime you need to.
Yeah, like his suit's 7 pieces. It's mask, gloves, 2 boots, shirt and pants.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool compared to, you know, just a mask of it, one giant leotard.
Yeah, basically.
I don't think anyone realized how hard I had to dig deep to remember the word leotard. I could not figure out the word to save my life. I'm like, all right, it's a ballet term. I just don't remember what it is.
Body condom.
The big body condom.
So speaking of someone literally looks like he's wearing a body condom, the Vulture decides to undergo his massive scheme that he mentioned earlier with the diamonds, and it's so hilarious, but I adore it because it actually is low-key really smart.
Yeah, so it's actually incredibly genius, and I love it.
So Matt, do you want to describe what the Vulture's master plan is? Like, what happens in this sequence?
Oh yeah, of course. So the police take a helicopter above as an armored vehicle is taking these gems. A man's holding the gems, coming out with 2 guards next to him. They're on the prowl for the Vulture. They want to make sure that he can't get the drop on him. But something's crudely drawn in front of them as they walk. It looks like a circle. It's the same color as all the other concrete. So you really wouldn't notice it, or you might not notice it like while you read it. But there's a manhole. Boom! Out from the manhole, Vulture comes, yanks the briefcase, and flies underneath the sewer and subway system.
And away, I think that was beautifully done. It captured something that really has to be seen to be believed.
Yeah. Gentlemen, you're so right. I'll take those diamonds.
Literally, Actually, I mean, it kind of ties into like, all right, maybe the Vulture has more brains than we gave him credit for because he's just specifically warned the police about he's going to steal these diamonds, so they think to watch the skies and have all their attention on someone from above because that's his gimmick. Again, his main skill here is that he's fast, so he can get the drop on people before they have time to shoot him, and then he can fly through the subway.
Yeah, honestly, for an old man, he's incredibly fast. Like that's some superhero stuff right there. Yeah. Yes, look, yes, it's secretly like a really, really smart and like well put together plan. Like when you read it, it's just kind of funny because you're like, wow, you idiots, you didn't think about it, you come below.
Or like you just
but then
just to the
yeah.
sheer fact of like a jump scare of this greed because he looks so ridiculous and he like pops up and he's like ooga booga.
Yeah. Booga booga boo. And then leaves.
Yeah. He's like whoop, 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 and he's just gone.
Yeah. Oh, I'll say yeah. And the copy says we expect an attack from above.
They're just completely dumbfounded. But no fear because Spider-Man's on the scene. Having like followed them as Peter Parker, and he does a quick change and he gives chase. Vulture tries. We have got a nice little sequence of them fighting an aerial battle. And I guess what do you think of this because the first fight wasn't really a fight. It was more just so like Spider-Man getting knocked out because he's kind of just a punk at this point. But now we get to see Spider-Man in his first like aerial battle versus another super villain. How did you think about this?
I think it's cool because it kind of reminded me of, while I was reading it, it reminded me of the Spider-Man battle against the Vulture in PS4.
Yes.
Like really fast. Like when I read this, I felt like we're seeing Spider-Man just zip around trying to web him real fast, take a quick hit, then try to web off just so he can get it. Which is something like I think the secret is, deep down, I don't hate the Vulture. I actually really love the Vulture. I just don't realize I love the Vulture. Because like scenes like these, I think are really, really cool. Because it's a very different element for Spider-Man when it comes to combat. Because when he's truly in the air, it looks and feels like Spider-Man never has control. It's the only thing that can win that fight. It's like Peter Parker figuring it out, not Spider-Man powers just prevailing.
Because when he gets so high, because we kind of see it, it's kind of vaguely drawn, but from what my interpretation is, like, during the fight, the Vulture kind of gets more and more altitude to the point where like, there's no buildings for him to swing off. So Spider-Man like has to literally like swing off his foot, and he's like, when there's no buildings and Vulture's in the air, Spider-Man is completely out of his element. So then it comes down to just thinking on the fly. Spider-Man, like, while he was away, he managed to hook up this device in his room that like would interfere with the Vulture's mechanism and like shut him down. But it's really this cool sequence of Spider-Man like climbing up his web, getting closer and getting closer, and get the final drop on Vulture, which I really appreciate. As just like, it's not overdone. It's not like it's just a page really of their fight, but I think it does the job, and it has like this nice sense of like energy to it. It's very kinetic.
Yeah. Energy, yeah, that's a very good word I would use to describe it. There's a lot of energy going into what he's doing. Like, I don't know, like, yeah, I feel like exhausted for Spider-Man after that scene.
But the one who's really exhausted is the guy who has to. He just lets Vulture fall, and
yeah.
We're very lucky that Vulture can kind of like. We find out what the wings are actually for. Is they can like he's twirling to like slow down his fall. And then he kind of lands on the rooftop, like a bit dazed, but basically okay. But I find it funny that like Peter Parker really killed this guy.
Yeah. So, well, the worst part is like, you know, or you could argue is actually the best part is he's not even there. Like, you think you'd web up the Vulture or something to make sure he's okay. Or like you know, like tell the cops like, hey, check it out, I stopped the Vulture, I'm not a menace, see ya. He just takes a picture from the alley and dips.
Yeah, which I mean, it makes sense because from the police's perspective, Spider-Man was never there. So when we later see him go to JJ and we get like the interaction between them with like him giving him his first photos, it's a nice justification of like Peter Parker's being a lot more a lot more smart in keeping his identity safe than nearly every other version of Peter Parker after him will be. Uh,
Yeah.
But like, so like Vulture gets put away, and it's just really funny because like Ditko draws him on the ground. He looks so confused, and he looks so helpless, and it's just really
Please,
funny.
no jokes.
And it's just like, Vulture, maybe we'll never see you again, or will we?
Yeah.
So Spider-Man puts him away, and we go to see. We end the issue with like Peter getting his first paycheck from Jonah, which will become like a running trend. And I guess, how do you feel about this trope that would basically become Peter Parker's job for like in most media adaptations of using his Spider-Man like persona to get pictures and then selling to J.J. Jameson? How do you feel about it?
I think it's a really interesting dynamic because, especially when he starts taking pictures of himself, because like it's like kind of self-destructive in a way because like, yeah, he's getting that instant gratification of like, all right, I have money in my pocket. I can afford to buy things. But at the same time, like he's destroying Spider-Man with each picture he gives because Jonah's just going to turn him out to be a bad guy. But
it's also very journalistically iffy, the ethics of it.
I don't know. I never really thought about the ethics, but I guess like from Jonah's part, it's kind of scummy, just because if a kid's like, I'm not like, do not credit me, I'm not telling you where I got these pictures, like that's kind of sketchy. But at the same time, I get why he's doing it. After you said he's doing it to save his identity, I didn't really think about that. I was thinking more just like straight up safety reasons, because like because if people find out, oh, Peter Parker's this kid who keeps getting pictures of me, well, I'm just gonna find Peter Parker and kill him.
Which is what happens all the time. Like,
yeah, I know. Yeah,
like the Raimi movie is like, there's the photographer who takes pictures of Spider-Man, and then Doc Ock's like, Peter Parker, you take Spider-Man's photos. It's like, this is why he doesn't have to give his name. Jonah's totally fine with it not being on the record. Peter, in every even in the cartoons, like the good Spider-Man adaptions, it's just like, for some reason, they always put photos by Peter Parker. I'm like, you are signing your crime.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that I do appreciate, that they really generate the fact he's like, don't put my name, and you can't ask where I got him, kiddo. And then, Jonah J. James is like, yeah, sure, whatever, just take the money and go.
Yeah, he's like, I really don't give a shit, kid. Which works for Jonah's personality, because again, if this was someone else, like if this was Perry White, he would have immediately like said, I'm not taking these photos until you tell me where you got them. But because it's Jameson, he's just like, these are sensational.
Yeah. Yeah, George just says, all right, cool. This will probably sell some papers. All right, here you go. But let's be honest, the best thing about this issue is the very, very last panel, where you just see the Vulture pouting in a shell, in a cell.
In full costume.
Yeah, full costume still. You think they gotta take the dude out?
They didn't take it away.
Yeah. Like at least throw him in like an orange jumpsuit or something, or I guess back then it'd probably be like that old timey black and white suit.
But it's still not even. He's not even calling himself Adrian Toomes. He's not called his name this entire issue. We don't know who this guy is really.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like they haven't given him a backstory yet, so they don't want to take him out the suit because they haven't decided if it's like attached to his body yet or not. Like Lee and Ditko or something are just kind of like, we had this idea, we didn't really think too much about it. Maybe we'll use it later and we'll elaborate on it. But like, he's literally just just this guy in this green suit that we don't even know what the hell he is. And then in the next story in this issue, it kind of leaves you wondering, okay, well, if there's aliens in this universe that are just like casually hanging around, who knows what the fuck the Vulture is?
Aliens? What do you mean?
I mean, nothing. No, never mind. We'll get to that.
I think something really important that Spider-Man says, I can't find the panel, but I remember him saying it in the Vulture story. He he doesn't ever call himself a hero. He calls himself like a costume adventurer.
Yes, which is like
Which,
exactly what he is at the moment.
which I think is really important because like he really still isn't a superhero, but like I feel like we got to that point now where like he's moving out of the phase where we think he might become a villain.
Yes, because he's put someone away. He's helped the police, but he didn't do it necessarily out of the goodness of his heart. Because it's again the whole time he's thinking, "I'll need this to get photos." It's just a happy coincidence that he's doing good, which makes sense. As like this guy's personality is his focus isn't on saving the day yet. It's just his great power and great responsibilities Aunt May at the moment. That he needs to make sure he gets money so Aunt May and him can have a roof over their heads. And then once that worry, which we see at the end of this issue, Peter's like, "I paid the rent for the whole year." Then he can start moving away from Aunt May being his only responsibility. It's a very natural progression.
Yeah. Speaking of that rent money, yeah, I want to know how much Jonah gave him to be able to pay off rent for a whole year.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about like Peter Parker is always poor, but I mean, he just said he just got one paycheck and has paid his rent for the whole year.
Yeah, Peter Parker's straight bulling right now.
For a 15-year-old, like literally.
Yeah, he just needs to invest. He just needs to invest in some ice, and you know all his girl problems will dip.
But yeah, this is the first issue where we end the story on a win. This is the first like time Spider-Man's smiling at the end of the issue and not crying.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, so it's the first time Spider-Man's got a dub in a story where like it was an actual like everything went right for Peter.
Which kind of like segues into the next one where we're seeing Peter. He's kind of on top of things. Before we'll go too much into the Tinkerer story, because I feel like I don't know about you, but I feel like that is the weakest part of this issue, and that's why I'm not spending as much time on it. But I will say, just in terms of this, how do you feel about the Vulture story ranked next to the previous issues we've had?
I think if I had to rank it, Vulture story is probably somewhere in the middle. It's weird. Amazing Fantasy, like I think is a very well told story and how you should tell it, but the more I read, but the more stories we get introduced to, like the less I like it. But I still think that my favorite story might actually be either when he goes against the Fantastic Four or when he saves Jonah's son.
Yeah.
I do like the Vulture story more than the Chameleon story, though.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that speaks to why Vulture is more well known as like being an introductory Spider-Man villain than the Chameleon is. Like most Spider-Man stories, like Spectacular Spider-Man, the Spider-Man PS1 game, like the movie adaptation, they normally start with like Peter's first villain is the Vulture, like Homecoming as well, because I feel like it's a good this is the first introduction to this crazy world, but he's not necessarily the most terrible threat, but he's enough of a threat where like it's
yeah, you're right. Like for a very early Peter, you're like, wow, this could be really, really dangerous. But
and then something you can look back on when he's like established and be like, Toombs, I love these moments where like adult Peter has to be like, I'm literally scared to punch you because I don't want to kill you.
Yeah.
You look like you could fall over any minute.
Yeah, so that's why I remember seeing Vulture. That's why, like, when I read Superior Spider-Man, I loved seeing like the few times Vulture was there.
And Otto just beat the fuck out of it.
yeah, because it was like, dude, he's going to kill him. This is how Vulture dies. I know it. I can't believe he did it.
It's something, and we kind of do see how powerful Peter Parker really is in this next story, where he single-handedly fought an alien invasion. Now I don't know how you, man. I mean, but that came out of fucking nowhere, right?
I'll say this entire story was like totally blocked in my mind because like I remember he fought Tinkerer, and I remember the plot with radios, but I forgot why the radios were important. And then we keep going down, and then we just see an alien invasion.
Just chilling in his basement.
Yeah, it's just like, what? Why does an old man...
So, I mean, long story short, Peter Parker gets like a chance to work under this like famous scientist. I think his name is Dr. Cobwell. And while he's there, he's told to pick up some supplies for a radio. And he goes to this radio shop that's doing it on the cheap by this guy called Phineas Mason, the Tinkerer. And he does all these radio repairs for like ridiculous prices. And Peter starts to think, maybe this is too good to be true. Investigates it further, leading to him finding out that this is a scheme by an alien race who's using the devices that Tinkerer is selling on the cheap to spy on government officials and scientists to find humanity's weaknesses. I shit you not.
That's really fucking woke when you think about it. Like that totally sounds like something that would have came out of 2018 story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just... yes, like, honestly, the entire Tinker's part, like, despite not having the quality that the Vulture story has, like, everything you have to read it, like, twice just to make sure you read that right, just because you can't believe what's going on.
It's just so different from the tone we've had before. And I feel like if it wasn't... I think this is the strength of Marvel in this respect, is if it wasn't for Peter managing to cross over the Fantastic Four before this, I'd be having a lot more questions of why he isn't acting more surprised by these aliens. But because the Fantastic Four have been around for a while, and like in their second issue they fight the Skrulls, it's a public thing. So I'm not surprised that he's like okay with the existence of aliens. But if this was just Spider-Man's own series and like the way DC did it, where like he wasn't crossing over with... If this was a Batman story, and then Superman wasn't involved, and then suddenly aliens existed, it'd be a bit strange.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, no, I'll say I didn't even think about that just because I'm just so used to aliens being involved in everything in Marvel that I didn't think that this would be really, 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 really weird weirder than it already is.
Yeah, we're talking about an issue where we fought an 8-year-old guy in a skin-tight bird costume. And
yeah.
This is a bit out there. Who are we to say what is out there to these legends, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko? They were obviously far more woke than we could ever comprehend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If an old man in a bird costume isn't the weirdest thing in your story, you either have the worst or greatest story ever told on your hands.
I feel like that's the Grant Morrison approach to comics.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. There's not even much to explain. He's just working on. Peter's just working on the science stuff with the knockoff Albert Einstein. And then, I don't know. I just think this whole thing's just weird.
But actually kind of entertaining. But I feel like, I think it's just like, it's entertaining in a way where it's a lot more fluff than the previous stories have been. This feels a lot more like comics at the time. Like, where they just introduce events, have an action scene, and it would kind of wrap up with, like, not really any character growth. Like, this is the first story where Peter Parker hasn't really changed from beginning to end out of all these issues so far. But we get some nice, really good... I feel this is the strongest issue art-wise on it. Well, I keep saying issue, but it's same issue, just different parts, 2 different stories in that issue. You get a lot for your money, for the time especially. But like, we get some really cool art here. I think it has one of my favourite Steve Ditko panels. It's when Spider-Man's like infiltrating the alien base. Sounds weird saying that still, but it's in total, like, he's in darkness, so it's totally black, and all you see is like the red parts of Spider-Man's suit, and
the spider sense.
Yeah, and then the black, the parts which would be blue are just all black, and it's just such a cool... I think it's like legitimately my favourite thing Spider-Man artists do is when, like, you see in sometimes rarely in modern covers of when it's just black background with only the red parts of Spider-Man standing out, so you can't really see the total shape of his body, but his suit is designed in a way where you see where the arms are, you see where the legs are, so it makes sense. It's just a really cool visual.
Yeah, well, I'll say, well, it's funny because you started talking about how it's one of your favorite panels, and then I'm like, interesting. So I pulled it up to start looking down, and I'm like, oh, I know what it is. Yeah, I think this Red and Black always looks really cool.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I'll say, well, in fact, my favorite Spider-Man cover I can think of in like the last year or so was like issue 700, which was like kind of followed that Red and Black format,
Mm-hmm.
and like, and not like this, but it's very similar.
I think it's just red and black looks really good on Spider-Man, which I think is like, the red and blue is iconic, but I feel like this early, I always do like the idea of early Peter having a red and black costume, and then as he becomes more superheroic, he changes to blue.
I like that idea. Yeah, I'll second it. That's a really cool idea. Like, it kind of like how kind of like how Batman just gradually changed the suit over time.
Yes.
I kind of like the idea that Peter did the same thing.
Definitely. Like in my head canon for Spider-Man's like costume changes are like he starts off with the red and black and the Ditko eyes, and then as he gets like lighter and warmer and like he wants to appear like more friendly neighborhood to people when he actually wants to start helping people out, then he switches to like the big like the more ultimate style eyes and like the blue and the brighter like then the spider looking a little more friendlier. Like that's always my like head canon for Spider-Man's costume change. So I do kind of accept the like fan theory of the time is like at the moment Spider-Man the blue parts are just highlights like how Venom's highlighted blue when really it's just all black.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. That's really I guess that makes sense to me to follow like that chain along the way. I never really thought about it. See, because in my head until like literally until just now, it's always just been Spider-Man's always kind of had the same suit. It's just different artist interpretations. But like now that you mention it, it does feel more like he actually did change the suit over time.
Uh-huh. Because like it makes sense for him as well because we see in this issue as well he's immediately open to upgrading his suit and like changing things on the fly.
Yeah, you're right. Which I feel like a lot of Spider-Man mediums actually do that pretty well. That the suit that he's always doing minor touches to the suit. Like I think the game did it pretty well. I feel like if I remember anything from the Amazing Spider-Man movies, I remember him always messing and trying to figure out how to make a good suit. Probably because the suit looked like a basketball, but
yeah, and then that's like he travels to the second movie and then he has that more classic suit. Like you see the progression between those two films.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, I totally agree. I guess maybe that tells a lot about the content of this issue, where we just had like a tangent on like Spider-Man
suits. Yeah.
Because like there's not a lot of apart from the novelty of Spider-Man fights aliens, we get a nice Ditko action scene. But apart from that, the only real thing of note is Spider-Man gets captured at one point in like this bubble. It was kind of like a half Pokeball with like a glass thing. And there's like there's the neat way of how he escapes it, like using his webs. And I don't know if you saw this, but I don't really appreciate like the little diagram we get about how his web shooters work.
Yes. I really like that because I feel like, especially by this point, like I've always grown up in like a world where like they always show me how the webs work like really early. I feel like if I was reading this like monthly or how whatever schedule Amazing Spider-Man was at the time, like I really would want to know like how his webs work by like issue 1. So I think it's interesting that we didn't even figure out how the webs work until later down the road.
Yeah, with like the adjustable nozzle, which like explains how he can shoot straight lines and then shoot nets.
Yeah.
And there's a safety on it, so when he makes a fist, he doesn't accidentally like shoot web. Like specifically when he uses the two finger, like the signature pose.
Yeah, which is really smart on. He came up. Didn't Ditko come up with the idea of that for web fluid?
Oh, I think he did, yeah, because Stanley's only like thing he says is like the idea of like a guy climbing on walls, and I think Jack Kirby did a sketch of his Spider-Man has like a gun which shoots the webs. So maybe Jack Kirby did come up with the idea of he shoots web, but Steve Ditko's the one who said, let's just make it wrist mounted.
That's interesting. I didn't realize Jack Kirby had him have a gun. That's interesting. I wonder if they took that idea and used it last issue when they made Chameleon have a web gun.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, I wonder if that's where they thought of that.
As like a little gag of like the fake Spider-Man.
Yeah.
This guy made this is what a fake Spider-Man would use, not the real Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
I could totally see Ditko having a little jab at Kirby with that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I totally believe that. But yeah, I do think that I think the scene after is really cool though, just because. Well, we see, obviously just Spider-Man becoming better at being Spider-Man, because I feel like Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy would not be able to shoot the web that accurately.
No, or like beat so many aliens. To the fact that they run away screaming he's too powerful. He like single-handedly beats the fuck out of like 5 of these guys with like not a single hit on him.
I think these aliens are really an interesting design.
Yeah, they look really cool.
You know what they look like? They look like if Swamp Thing and Ambush Bug had a kid and it smoked crystal meth.
I'm actually really curious now of if these have like a name and if they've ever appeared elsewhere, because like in like a cosmic Guardians of the Galaxy thing or something.
Yeah. I was wondering too. Yeah, like I feel like in all the issues of Guardians and Captain Marvel and all of cosmic Marvel, these guys have had to at least shown up at least once or twice.
At least it's because they're such a big Spider-Man. It's like in the second issue of Spider-Man, it's an alien race. Surely they have to turn up. I know they did recently return in Spectacular Spider-Man, like I think it was last year.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, Chip Zdarsky did an arc with like the Tinker and everything. Like he called them again.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I want to talk about something about Tinker at the end, because I'm confused because I don't remember anything about the Tinker.
Well, I mean, there's not much else. Spider-Man scares the aliens off and they like run away, swearing that they can never return to Earth again because one guy beat them off. But they have all these military secrets. But then like, nah, if Spider-Man's here, we can't face him. So I mean, that's Chip and Peter Parker's thing. But we end the issue on Spider-Man holding the Tinkerer's mask face, Scooby-Doo style, and it's kind of left on a cliffhanger of sorts. So I guess, do you want to go into your point on like Tinker and how it relates to that, maybe, or whatever? That's what I'm confused about.
Why is he holding a Tinkerer face? I don't remember Tinkerer wearing a mask ever. I thought that's just how he looks.
I think the whole idea is because Peter Parker calls they were just working for that planet, but you're a traitor. I think the idea is that he actually was one of the aliens.
Oh, I got you.
But
okay.
I get why you're confused, because then that's retcon that he's just a normal guy, because no further Spider-Man writer who wants to use the Tinkerer ever mentions this except for Chip Zdarsky. They just say, oh, it was a con, they weren't real aliens, and because it's such a weird thing to have in Spider-Man's normally like ground level adventure. So people like other versions of Tinkerer, they're normally just like a scientist. They're never an alien. So I get why you're confused, because I feel like this has been retconned to where it was just a fake. But my knowledge on Phineas Mason isn't as good as other characters. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, shit. At least you know his name is Phineas Mason. I could, if someone put a gun in my head and said, "What's the Tinkerer's real name?" I would have just pulled the trigger myself. I have no clue what his name was. But I think the Tinkerer is really kind of something about his design I really like.
Yeah, and the whole guy.
Like Ditko literally drew if you thought the Vulture was a creepy old man, check this out.
He's got like 6 chins.
He's got like 6 chins, but somehow the world's greatest jawline. He has a mean fade, and he might have the most beautiful set of eyebrows I've ever seen. And he has a soul patch.
And his glasses are placed over his eyebrows. He never wears his glasses normally.
Do you think how that's just how those aliens dispute all humans? We all just look like Phineas here.
I'm actually totally for the idea that he is an alien and he just like assumes he doesn't know what humans are meant to look like. So he just okay, eyebrows, we're gonna need a lot of those. Chin's gonna need a lot of those. A soul patch, gonna need that. Glasses, I don't know what these are for. They must be some kind of a hat. So we're just gonna put them on top of my head because he never uses them like actual glasses.
Yeah, you're yeah. So yeah, no, I was scrolling back up, and yeah, I don't. He holds them like actual glasses, but he never. But he puts them on for a hot second. But that's it. I don't know. I think my theory is the aliens thought, what does the perfect male look like? And that's how we think the perfect male specimen is.
This is their ideal definition of like beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm totally
a soul patch.
Soul patch. And then based on the end, just Peter's like, well, that was weird, and that's his character arc for this story. So, if you've got anything else to say, Matt, I don't know. I think we kind of did a really good job covering two basic. Feels like 2 issues in one episode.
Yeah, you're right. I'll say, yeah. There's really not much more to talk about Tinker, especially the thing is, I feel like you really dissected Vulture well, but like, there's just not enough content with the Tinker stuff. There's just some cool art, and he fights an alien invasion.
Yeah.
Which I mean, on paper that sounds really cool.
Yeah, you'd think which would be the bigger, more exciting threat. Guy in bird costume versus Legion of the Alien Armada. The answer may surprise you. Top 10 BuzzFeed links.
Yeah. click the link below to win free iPad.
But yeah, I guess overall, as one piece, counting both stories, how do you feel about Amazing Spider-Man issue 2?
I've enjoyed it just as much as the other ones, if not more. I am a little bit surprised that upon speaking about it and thinking about it, I enjoyed the Vulture story a lot more than I gave it credit for.
I feel like this is where because we'll get a lot of issues like this. We'll get some issues where it's like very emotional and you can get really into the character stuff. But then you'll get stuff where it's just Stanley and Steve Ditko having a lot of fun and it's just really entertaining to read.
Yeah,
and entertaining to talk about because it's just hilarious, but also just kind of like it makes you think, what were they thinking? These brilliant, beautiful men.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to see. I just want to see like. I just wish I could even fly on the wall just to see this thought process. Be like, all right, alien invasion, and they're gonna use radio tubes to spy on world leaders. I wonder. Wouldn't it be funny if they were like, if those aliens are still like spying on? Actually, I'm pretty sure this is an episode of Black Mirror, or it should be. Just that aliens are just watching the planet.
Every pre-owned item you ever buy has an alien camera in
it. Yeah. Wow. Well, kids.
Sleep on that.
Check out your. Yeah, sleep with that thought.
But yeah, so that covers number 2. Next week, however, is kind of a big one. Next week we'll be kind of going into a character that will forever haunt Peter Parker, a character which is arguably one of the greatest supervillains of all time, and one of the most important ones. Something really just like. So I'm really excited to talk about it. Let's just put it at that.
Yeah, it's like he really is like a really like superiorly drawn and written character in the Spider-Man universe.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different angles you can really like take a hold of it. Like you can like different 1, 2, 3, 4 different ways you can look at it. Like just this kind of character.
Yeah, for real. I feel like we could be talking about the next issue like 4 hours.
But yes, in Amazing Spider-Man issue 3 next week, you can see me and Matt discuss the genius of Otto Octavius, Dr. Octopus, Doc Ock.
the true icon of the Spider-Man series.
Bulker and all. But yes, I've been Alfie.
I'm pretty sure I'm still Matt.
We're pretty sure one of us may have to take off our face and reveal to be an alien that we're using this podcast to spy on people.
Yeah, this is all this really subtle mind control.
But we hope you've had a good time. We certainly have, and we will see you next week. So stay true, true believers, and have a good day.